Some people count the days until the weekend so they can finally go out. Others count the days until they can finally stay in. The invitations begin arriving before Friday even ends. A friend suggests dinner. A coworker mentions a party. Someone sends a message saying, "You have to come this time." You smile, think about it for a moment, and politely say you'll let them know. But as the evening approaches, another picture quietly forms in your mind. Comfortable clothes, a warm drink, your favorite chair, the silence of your own home. And somehow, that sounds infinitely more appealing than anywhere else. To many people, that choice is difficult to understand. They assume you're lonely, shy, or missing out. But what if they've misunderstood the psychology completely? Modern society has quietly convinced us that a meaningful life must always look busy. If you're constantly traveling, meeting people, or posting photos from new places, it somehow feels like proof that you're living life to the fullest. Staying home, on the other hand, is often treated like settling for less. Yet psychology paints a very different picture. The brain doesn't reward us simply for experiencing more. It rewards us for experiencing what feels meaningful. And for some people, those two things are very different. Every environment asks something from your mind. Walking into a crowded cafe means filtering conversations, reading facial expressions, deciding where to sit, responding to questions, and constantly processing new information. None of those tasks feel difficult on their own, but together they create something psychologists call cognitive load. The brain is working continuously, even when we don't notice it. Then something remarkable happens the moment you return home. You unlock the door, step inside, take a slow breath. Almost instantly, your shoulders relax without being told to. The constant mental scanning begins to fade. Not because your house possesses some magical quality, but because your brain finally recognizes an environment it no longer has to analyze. Perhaps that's why home feels different. It isn't just where your body rests, it's where your mind finally stops searching for the next thing demanding its attention. One of the biggest misconceptions about people who love staying home is that they dislike people. Ironically, many of them enjoy people immensely. They love deep conversations, meaningful friendships, and spending time with those they genuinely trust. What they don't enjoy is endless interaction without emotional depth. A single evening spent talking honestly with one close friend often feels more rewarding than hours surrounded by dozens of familiar faces. Think about the conversations you remember years later. They usually weren't the loudest. They weren't the funniest. They were the ones where you felt completely understood. People who enjoy staying home often value those moments more than excitement itself. They're not chasing bigger experiences. They're chasing richer ones. There's another reason home feels so comforting that people rarely talk about: predictability. The human brain constantly tries to predict what will happen next. Every unfamiliar environment requires attention because uncertainty demands energy. Home removes much of that uncertainty. You know where everything is. You recognize every sound. Even the silence feels familiar. That familiarity allows the nervous system to settle in ways most people never consciously notice. This may also explain something you've probably experienced yourself. Have you ever gone out with friends, laughed the entire evening, genuinely enjoyed yourself, yet somehow returned home feeling mentally exhausted? Psychologists sometimes describe this as social fatigue. Some people jokingly call it a social hangover. It doesn't mean you dislike the people around you. It simply means your brain spent hours processing conversations, emotions, and subtle social cues without a real opportunity to recover. Home becomes the place where all that invisible work finally comes to an end. Interestingly, many creative people instinctively protect this quiet time. Writers, artists, musicians, programmers, and designers often spend long hours alone, not because they reject the world, but because uninterrupted thought has become surprisingly rare. Creativity doesn't always appear while we're searching for it. More often, it arrives while we're making coffee, washing dishes, reading a book, or simply staring through the window with nowhere else to be. When external stimulation decreases, internal reflection begins. Ideas that never seemed connected suddenly make sense. Questions quietly answer themselves. The brain starts having the kind of conversations with itself that are impossible in a noisy world.
Maybe that's why some of your happiest moments were never photographed.
No audience, no applause, no notifications. Just a peaceful evening that nobody else even knew existed. And somehow, that was enough. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding of all is believing that people who love staying home are hiding from life. In reality, many aren't running away from anything. They're simply choosing an environment where they feel most like themselves. A place where they don't have to perform, compete, impress, or constantly respond. For a little while, they can simply exist without feeling pulled in 100 different directions. In a world that celebrates constant movement, choosing stillness almost feels rebellious. Yet maybe that's exactly why it matters. Peace has become so unfamiliar that many people mistake it for boredom. But they're not the same thing. Boredom leaves you restless. Peace leaves you fulfilled. So perhaps people who love staying at home aren't missing out on life at all. Perhaps they've simply discovered something many people spend years chasing without ever finding: the ability to feel completely content without needing the world to constantly entertain them. Because happiness isn't measured by how many places you've been, or how many invitations you've accepted. Sometimes, it's measured by whether you can sit quietly in your own home, with no one watching, and honestly think to yourself, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. If this video resonated with you, thank you for spending these few quiet moments with me. And if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing for more videos that explore the hidden patterns behind human behavior. Until next time, take care of yourself, and never underestimate the quiet places where the mind finds its greatest peace.